Okay, so let's do the sample standard deviation worksheet. So we have this data here, right? Something about cookies and weights. And it says calculate the mean. So we take our values and then we add them up, divide by how many we have to give you the mean. Sometimes, during your quiz or your test, it will tell you to calculate the mean through the calculator or show your work by finding the mean. The mean is important because for the formula for the standard deviation, right, you need the mean. Now, let's say you had other numbers here, right? How far should we go? Well, 3 numbers after the decimal place, so 154.544 would be great. Okay, so 3 numbers after the decimal place is great. Why do you want to do that? Because the more values you have, the more accurate it is, the closer you'll get to the value of 0 when you sum this here. Okay. Now, at this point, I can probably take out the calculator, and this will help me do some calculations. I have already my values here. I typed out my values, right? My data set. So if I go to stat and edit, that's where I have my list. But if I go to stat, calc, one variable stat, second L1, enter, that's going to give me the average 154.5, which I have right here. Okay, so that's cool. Now you have to do this process so that you can get your credit, right? You have to do it in columns because in the next section that we're going to study, we're going to be using columns and we're going to be using very similar processes. So these values that they give us, we're going to put them on a column. You do not have to put these in order. If you have more than one data set or more than one value that's repeated, then make sure you write it out. Okay. So I have the numbers on the column. Now I need to do x minus x bar. So I'm looking at those distances. Remember, if you remember the lecture, there are these distances from the mean, and we need to calculate those. So you take each data value, subtract it from the mean to get this difference. And yes, you can go over here on your calculator. 149 minus 154.5, negative 5.5. And then you can continue on by squaring this value. So what you can do is, if you click on squared, right, square the answer, it's going to give you 30.25. Okay. If you type negative 5.5 squared, it's not going to give you that answer. So that's the algorithm, the algebraic. These calculators are algebraic, and it's a little bit weird, isn't it, in the way they calculate it. So you need to get to be familiar. You need to familiarize yourself with the calculator. All right. Another way you can do this, of course, is parentheses, negative 5.5, close parentheses squared, entered. For sure, we're going to get that. Okay, so you have this answer. And that's what you need to do for the rest of this problem. Now, maybe you want to double check everything, check to see if these values are correct, right? That's going to be pretty straightforward. You're going to go to stat, you're going to go to edit, and now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the columns. Over here, you have L1, L2, L3. We're going to focus on L2, and what we're going to do is in the middle over here, right? Look over here. You'll see that you have L2 equals some brackets. We're going to put a formula in those brackets. And the formula is going to be, we're going to take L1 and we're going to subtract 154.5. So you need to be all the way to the top, right? Look over here on the calculator that is on L2. So we're going to do L1 minus 154.5, right? 154.5. Let's see if we get this. Aha! We can see that the calculator calculated all the numbers that I needed. And I can double check my work. Awesome. Can we do the next column? Of course we can. So for L3, we got to go all the way in the top, right? And what we do is we're going to need to take, I would suggest put parentheses, L2, close parentheses, squared. All right, fine. So we're going to take L3, and then we're going to square it. No. Clear that. Parentheses, L2, close parentheses squared. Okay. Put the parentheses just in case to put that negative inside. This column, they all need to be positive values. Okay. Enter. There it is, 30.25, 6.25, 56.25, and so forth. So perfect. So we got that. So I'm going to go back. And one thing you also can do is, of course, you should take the sums of each column. As you can see, if you take the sum of x, you can double check your work that we have 927. And then here, when you sum these, you should have close to 0. Now, if you have something like 0.04 or 0.08, you're okay. You're very close to the answer. The thing is, the reason why you're not at 0 sometimes, it's because there are some extra numbers that you did not type out. And that happens. But if you get an answer and you start getting like, oh, the sum of the differences are 1.34, well, that's too much. Okay. 1.34. It's like going to McDonald's, right? And they didn't give you $1.34 back. You're like, wait a minute, I want my $1.34, right? But if you go to McDonald's and they don't give you 3 cents, you're like, keep it. That's okay. So that's kind of like the idea, all right? It's the smaller it is, it's not a big deal. The bigger this value is, something's going on, something's wrong. And then sum these, so find the sum of these values, and this is very important. This is part of the formula that we need. Now, can we find these sums? Yes, we can. So let's do that on the calculator. So we already have L1, L2, and L3 already. So if we go to, don't click on it yet, but look at the stat button. On top it's yellow, it says list. So if we go second stats, we get this. And if we click on math on the top right, you see it? We have sum, number 5. Aha, cool. So we can do L1. So we're going to type second L1, close. What does it give me? 927. Perfect, 927. Then we can go to, I think if we go, can we go back? Can we touch yeah, we can touch that. And then go in here and say L2. You see that? I didn't have to go back. to the menu and gives you 0. See, these are the little things that you need to discover to make these things go a little bit faster. And these are the more enjoyable things that you found something to make this more palatable for some. Here, I can click on this, on sum L2, go back, and then go second L3 and enter 153.5. You see that? Or second stat, math, sum. Second L3, enter. Boom. If that was a little too fast, just rewind the tape and then you can do that. Okay, then 153.5, you put it into the formula here, and then you have 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 data points. And don't forget to subtract 1. And then when you divide, you get 30.7. Take the square root, and there's your answer. Okay. Now, can I find this answer on the calculator? You can, right? Remember, if you go to stat and edit, the first column has all these numbers, right? This data set. So if we go to stat and calc, one variable stats, L1, enter, we look for the standard deviation, which is right there. It gives you 5.540, right? 75. Perfect. And then also it gives you the mean, right? 154.5. And gives you the sum of x, which is 927. So it gives you already a lot of information to check your answer. And that's it. That's how you do these problems. They're a lot of work. You gotta show the work, okay? Just don't type in the answers here from your calculator, or else I'm gonna mark it. I'm gonna take some points off because that's not the point. Well, not now, all right? You gotta be patient. Remember, this is a math class, and this is not, your biology class or your major, quote, major course. When you're in your major, and I've talked about this, when you're in your major, let's say in chemistry, most of the time, most chemistry teachers, when I got my chemistry degree, they would ask me, do all your work. But now with computers and stuff, people are more interested, not so much as the calculation, but what is going on with the answer. Describe the answer. Because the calculations are pretty mundane, and you're supposed to know how to do it by your head, but computers do a lot of these values. The thing is the analyzing the numbers, right? Understanding what that number means is really important. So you're not going to be doing these type of calculations in the far future, right? When you get your master's or when you're in your major. But for this class, you have to show your work. Okay. Then we have says find the central tendencies, and the standard deviation by using your calculator. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to stat, we're going to edit, and I think I have those values already here. They're over here. They're in L5 and L6? No. They're in L4 and L5. Let's erase L6 over here. I'm going to clear, not delete. Enter. L4 and L5. Okay, so this is the dot plot, right? You need to know how to read the dot plot. And then we're going to put it in a frequency table. Assume that The values are discrete. Okay. So you can read these values. This says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Starts at 4. How many oranges do you have? Are these oranges? Yeah, 4. Um, how many 4s do you have? 1, right? How many 7s do you have? 4. Really? Yeah. Here's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So you can see that you do have these values. And then when we do the table, and yes, that's kind of a long table. Is the table like that going to be on the test? Maybe smaller, not as much. If there is something like this. Okay, so you have to find the central tendencies and the standard deviation. That's going to be pretty straightforward. You got to type this out on the calculator, right? So this could be L1, this could be L2, but in my case, it's L4 and L5, which I already typed in. And so you can see it there. And the mode, the calculator doesn't really give you the mode, but the most frequent value is right here, which is 14. So let's find the mean, the median, and the standard deviation via the calculator. So we have this. So we know this is L4 and L5. So we're going to click on Stat, Calc, one variable stats, L4, comma, L5, enter, and then the mean is 10.3, perfect. The median, if you go all the way to the second column, 10.5, and the standard deviation, which is right there, 2.8873. That's all you do is copy those values and you're done. And then you demonstrated that you put the you demonstrated that you can create a frequency table, and then you demonstrated that you know how to use your calculator. Some of you might say, well, I don't want to use my calculator. Can I do the answer? Sure. You can write, you can show your work. Be aware, I did not say show your work and your calculator. A lot of the times people think, oh, show, use your calculator, assuming that you need to show your work. If it says just use your calculator, use your calculator. Most of the time, I'm pretty clear. If it says show your work, you got to show your work. But here in this problem, it doesn't say anything about showing your work. But if you want to, that's great. But don't feel stressed out by it. All right? Okay. So this is the standard deviation or the sample standard deviation worksheet. All right. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.